Hello, everyone. This is your girl Yavo. I am back with another review of Raising Kanan Season 5. This is the final episode of Season 5. This is episode 8. And we are starting off again super melancholy. Marvin, one of our star and beloved characters, died last episode. Kanan killed him. So you just see Rock and Juke kind of just sad and melancholy in their own world. Rock is kind of just sitting to herself, looking like she's just thinking about everything. And poor Juke is crying, reading her father's letter that he left for her. Kind of, unfortunately, kind of knowing his days were numbered, and but didn't know where it was going to come from. So she's reading that farewell kind of letter from Marvin. And then we go into this scene where Jarita is telling Kanan that she is pregnant with his baby. Kanan is just like, how do you know for sure it's mine? Because she's a call girl. It's disrespectful, but it's a fair question. And she confirms that she uses condoms with all of her clients, so she knows for sure he's the father. And she's basically like, she's just letting him know. Is no pressure if he wants if he wants to be in the baby life or not, if it matters to him. And Kanan says it does matter to him, and she's just like asking him, basically let me know if you're going to be in the child's life or not. He doesn't really answer, and she's just like, well, you'll let me know or not, if you're going to. She kind of looks like she's kind of wanting him to be, even though she's saying, it doesn't matter if he's in the child's life. But she leaves and he's kind of left with his thoughts. And then next we go to the scene where um Breeze pulls up on the Italian twins that he was doing the pill business on the side. And they're kind of at their house in their driveway. Crazy looking yard, looks very junky, and the twins are talking on their own. And they don't see Breeze pull up. And Breeze basically comes, and they're looking how you even know we live here? How you, like, what are you doing here? And he pow pow pow. You know, he pow pows them, so they're done because they already got picked up by the police. Because they got stopped. As we remembered, and found the pills in their car, and Breeze doesn't want to be implemented in that and gets taken down, so he takes them out so they don't rat on him. So that is a wrap with that. So we'll see what's next with this episode, y'all. Is already, everything's kind of closing in, so we'll see how this journey goes. So now we in the scene where Rock is back at Bernardi's spot. I don't know why this lady keep going to all her old people thinking somebody gonna throw her a bone. Like I don't, like, she's worse than freaking Unique with not accepting reality about how like shit has fallen for her. So she's there talking to Bernardi and basically trying to like see if she could work back with him again and get his protection. And he's just like, and she was just like, I need your protection. Give me some time. Sorry if you heard the train. I live by the train, child. I'm sorry. Like, I'm trying to get some protection and keep Stefano up off of me. And he's like, oh, Bernardi's like, ooh, like Stefano wants you dead. And she's just like, I don't know what his thing is with me. I don't know if it's like he wanted to mess with me in a way I didn't want to mess with him. I guess, like saying like sexually. And then Bernardi's like, wait, so Stefano wanted to mess with you and you didn't want to mess with him? And then Rock is like, shrugging like, yeah. And then so Bernardi goes into this whole dumb long story about how he had a crush in high school, and he went to high school with Stefano. Stefano was an athlete and popular, had all the girls. And then Bernardi finally, when he was in high school, had a chance to had a kiss with his crush. And then a week later, his crush, the girl, was going out and going steady with, Stefano. And he, that was his best and first kiss, but he never got over his heartache. And Rock is looking at him like, I don't know what this story got to do with what we talking about. And he's like, I'm talking about making you money. And he's like, we don't basically, lady, we don't have no business relationship. We don't have nothing to talk about. But if we want to have a different type of relationship, you can let me know. Basically, trying to be like, if we have sex and let me have sex, then I'll think about protecting you from Stefano. And he's like, oh, so you trying to get with the girl that Stefano couldn't get with? Like, you putting me in that stupid predicament? And she's just like, the last dude who did that to me, is buried in the Catskills. And then Bernardi's like, oh, I prefer the Hamptons. Basically saying like, bitch, what other option do you have? And of course Rock is like, dude. She gets up and leaving. He's like, yeah. Basically, Bernardi is like, your days are numbered. Enjoy it while it lasts. And then she walks out, and then Bernardi's dude is like, oh, she's a nice piece of ass, being mad disrespectful. And he's like, Bernardi's like, yeah, I understand why Stefano had a hard on for her and her attitude. Like, just like mad problematic talk. Like, what? Like, he is so pathetic. Like, it's just really pathetic to see like how basic men are, and there's no respect, and the constant shit that Rock had to go through. Like, yeah, Rock is a lot of things, but it's terrible when you an ambitious woman, and plus you're beautiful, and then you add black on top of that. Like, it's the lack of respect. Like, that's the first place. Knowing this lady is a businesswoman and she's about her business and can make you money, that's the first thing you go to. Like, would you talk to Flossie like that? Probably, because men are disrespectful. And it's like, this is back in the day, and they're Italian. So it's just like, it doesn't matter. Like, Rock has experienced this from black, white, Italian. It doesn't, it don't really matter. Like, she's experienced this, unfortunately, from everyone. So, unfortunately, that's what Rock has to go through, child. Like, that was like the wackest of Bernardi. So now we have Miss Juke at Flossie's crib. Juke is basically letting Flossie know, like, I'm here just talking with you because my father wrote me a farewell letter saying you kind of the only one I can trust. And Flossie's just saying, like, I'm surprised that he said that. We got along very well. We had a nice nice friendship. She's like, even though, I kind of talked at him most of the time, you know, just sending high praises to Marvin and how fond she was of him. And basically, Juke is just asking her, like, I know that he worked with y'all, and I, think he got put down because of the business. And basically, she's trying to see, like, accent Flossie, like, who killed or put down my father. And then Flossie's like, oh my God, girl, like, you don't want to know. She's like, trust me. And then her and Juke are kind of going back and forth of, like, Flossie don't really want to tell her. Juke is like, my father would want me to know. And so Flossie goes and says, like, your cousin Kanan, he paid me a visit. But, I don't find it to be a productive talk when I'm talking with a gun to my head. And she's just like, why? Kanan pulled, like, pulled out a gat on you. And she's just like, and then Juke kind of goes quiet, and she's putting two and two together, and Flossie's like looking at her, and she's like, wait, did Kanan put my father down? And then Juke is just like getting disgusted and upset, and Flossie's just like, that's what I heard. I don't have firsthand knowledge, but that's like, basically that's the rumor going around. And she's like, but she's like, I don't know if it's true. And Juke is like, no, it's true. And then Flossie's like, families can be complicated. And Juke's like, no, my family's simple, very simple. And like, Flossie's just kind of looking at Juke, like, kind of disturbed, like, uh-oh. I don't know if I started some trouble. And I have to take back, I was wrong about Miss Flossie. I thought I actually respect the fact that she stopped working with Marvin and Rock, because they did keep secrets and lie to her, and she was keeping it real with them, you know, for the sorry if you heard that, that's the train. If you for the most part, she was keeping it real, you know, and just seeing day by day how they business relationship going. So I totally get why she didn't trust him anymore, and I think Marvin got that as well. And when you think about it, like Flossie is the one who told Marvin to kind of like, you know, even though you feel kind of lost, you lost your brother, like bet on your daughter, put your all into your daughter, which he should have, because Juke is they should have all bet on freaking Juke, not just Marvin. And and Flossie was kind of realer than I thought she was going to be, and more you know, I thought she was going to betray them, but I actually respect all of her decisions around not working with Rock and Marvin. It was actually, it made sense as opposed to like Stefano and everybody else. Like, I respect her decision. You know what I mean? That it makes sense, and you know, anybody would kind of have second. You know, you don't want to work with someone new who you know already out the gate and they lying and keeping secrets from you. You know what I mean? And so we go to the next scene at the chop pawn shop with Breeze, and Kanan is there. One of their street boys is bringing like a bag in. You come in and see Breeze and Kanan talking. And Breeze basically lets them know, like, oh, the Italian twins are retired. You know, basically, cold for I put them down. And, you know, um, kind of letting them know, like, that's not a problem anymore. And and Kanan asks, like, did you hear anything about, you know, who put down Snaps and Pop? And Breeze is like, nah, like I like that just came out of, I didn't see that coming. We don't know who did it. And Kanan's like, yeah, you know, it always seems like a normal ordinary day until it's not. And then Breeze is like, is that how it was with your uncle? And Kanan looks at him like, I don't really want to talk about none of that. And Breeze basically let him know, like, you know, even though whatever got handled with Uncle Marvin, like I'm still gonna have to handle Pow Pow your mom, because that call came from up top. It didn't call, you know, it wasn't just like Snaps and Pop had a problem with her, and just because they're gone means like there's no like price or over Rock's head. It came from Stefano, came from above, so that still has to happen. So Kanan looked like he's still troubled by it, but he's like, you know, do what you gotta do, but he still looked kind of scary about it. So we'll see how it goes with that, but that's the reality at the moment. So next we have Miss Rock. She's meeting with the FBI. She's with a lawyer with two of the federal agents, and basically letting them know that her and her lawyer letting them know that, you know, they're willing to give information um, about like who she deals with, you know, in the drug game. And basically she's willing to get information about Stefano and Bernardi, but she wants like protection and immunity for not only herself but also Kanan. And so one of the agents is like, yo, I didn't know your son was like had any dealings in this. And she's just like, you know, those are my demands. And they're basically like, you know, basically it depends what you tell us before we can promise you anything. And she's just like, well, I need y'all to confirm it, because I don't want to be, you know, me and my son cooked up and want to Stefano Bernardi's like Stefano or Bernard, like Stefano's ovens, and get cooked up in the ovens. And the agent's like, oh, is that what they do when they, like, you know, he does that to get back at people? And you know, she put that as bait to let them know, like, you know, just as bait for them so they could kind of catch on and kind of give her what she wants. So they basically say, you know, we have to take it to, you know, our higher ups, and we'll keep you posted. But you know, again, we're not promising nothing until you tell us fully what it is. So she's like, all right, you give me what I want, I give you what you want. And they, her and her lawyer leave. And so outside of the courtroom, the court office, the lawyer's just like reminding her, like, you know, they have high expectations. You really got to deliver. You know, this is not a game. And Rock is just like, you know, I don't make promises I can't keep. just make sure they are giving me what I want by protecting and giving immunity, witness protection immunity to me and my son. You handle your part, I'll handle my part, basically. So that's where we at with that. We have Juke at a food spot meeting up with Detective Garcia, and he's basically apologizing, sending regards about her father. And he's just like, I told you I'll stay out of your way, but you know, I need to know, like, if anything's going on with you. And she's like, I don't know who killed my father. And he's like, I don't believe you. And he's just like, well, basically, she's like, I don't know. And then he's like, also, basically, he Snap and Pop got put down, but he uses their government. She's like, I don't know who that is, but he was like, oh, Snap and Pop. And she's just like, well, and act surprised, like, oh, they got put down. He's like, yeah, they're the same people also, put down your best friend. And she's like, well, I guess they got what they deserve. And he's just like, Laverne, don't do anything you'll regret. Like, don't get into that. And she's just like, basically, I don't care what you think. I don't know anything. And she kind of leaves. So she's basically, in one ear, out the other. And I don't blame her. Not Rock, Juke is kind of like, especially with her father going, her soul is kind of left. She's kind of out here by herself. Um, I I will see how this goes for you, but Kanan has really stripped this girl of everything, all the people who she loves, especially within the family who really cared about her, and her future, and just her as a person. So, um, she's kind of just out here and soulless. So we shall see how it goes. So now we are at I don't even want to talk about this scene. We had Pops and Snap funeral. There's this dude Lump, I guess they family friend, and dude worked with him, giving them high regard. I don't give a fuck about them. They should have been dead, long gone. And basically, everyone kind of gives their last hoorah and cheers to Snap and Pop. Lump goes around, says hi to everyone. He goes to Stefano. They kind of Stefano gives him praise, for his speech at the funeral. They kind of chop it up, basically saying like, "Oh, did you know this guy named Early or something?" I guess like one of the dudes that Marvin put down while he was working for Stefano. Stefano act like he ain't really know. He's like, "Oh, well, the guy who put him down just got put down, basically." But and Lump is let him know, like, no, that don't make me feel better. That the guy who killed him got put down. And he was like, basically says to Stefano, like, am I the only one who know how, you act like you walk around with so much grace, but I know how really evil you are. You're a demon, acting like, basically, you're not going to, nothing's going to ever happen to you, like you're never going to die. And then Stefano was like, I don't, he's like, I'm not acting like I'm never going to die. I just want to die last. Basically, like, I don't care. Basically, he's like, he sends regards and kind of leaves after that. We have Mr. Whack ass Bernardi. We see Stefano back at his restaurant, and Bernardi kind of comes in, and he uh, is just talking nonsense and basically like saying like, oh, have at her. You can, you're free to put down Rock if you want to. She don't work for me anymore, and just talking about all the problems Rock caused and saying like, oh, the um the bad drugs put down one of these federal judges' clients that I had on my payroll, and she was working with this Colombian that I wanted to work. Just listing all of his grievances with Rock, and saying like, you can kind of put her down. And Stephanie was like, basically like I knew once she wasn't working with Flossie, you was gonna let her go. And Bernardi just talking all this like stupidness about how like, oh, such a shame for that nice piece of ass to go to waste basically, and um, basically trying to insinuate like he had sex with Rock, and Seven was like, no, like motherfucker, you lying, like you're right, and um, Bernardi's like, oh yeah, you're right, like you caught me, like I guess she couldn't resist my boyish charm, and just talking real crazy to Stefano. He's basically like, I like for my waiter to clear the table after I eat. I guess referring to Stefano, like just trying to talk down to him and basically like, oh, I give you my permission to take out right, like just trying to like show rank on top of stuff. Stefano's looking at him like, why are you like over here being extra talking to me like this? So he don't say nothing. He lets Bernardi leave. So that is that. And we also see Juke in that club that um, Rock and Marvin had when they was working with Flossie, and the girls was coming to pick up, to work, and she's just there by herself, still in a melancholy mood, and she sees the gun that Marvin left for her to keep under the bar, under the for protection. So we see her kind of looking at, kind of thinking, and that scene cut. So, um, TBD on what happens next. We are at Kanan's crib. The FBI agent is in his crib, basically telling him like, your mom came to our office. She's saying she'll be a part of our investigation into like the mafia crime bosses like Stefano, and Bernardi. But she asked for immunity and witness protection for you and her. And it's like, why? Like, why is she asking that? I don't have nothing to do. I didn't even know she even went and talked to y'all about that. And he's in the FBI agent's like, when she came to the office, like I looked into you more, and like, do you basically names off like the killings. Sorry, it is mad loud out here. I'm so sorry. And so basically, um, I FBI's like, I started digging, and he starts naming like the how those Italian twins are dead, and talking about how Snaps and Pop are dead, and basically trying to see if he know about it or have any involvement. And of course, Kanan denies it, and he's like, I don't know anything about no white boys. And the FBI agent is like, how do you know they were white? And he's like, look at their last names. You said their full names. Like, I don't know any. Basically, I don't know any niggas with those type of last names. The FBI is trying to like outsmart Kanan. So Kanan's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Shushes him out his apartment, and the FBI agent's like, your mom love you. You need to consider, because once she does this, her days are kind of numbered, and you should really consider it, basically. So he leaves, and that is that. And so we go to begging ass Rock going to Flossie to try to work back with her again. She's outside of Flossie's apartment buildings while she's coming out, to go with her driver to leave. And so she stops and talk with Rock, and and Rock is again begging to see if she could work with her. And like Flossie's like, I'm not even interested in talk to you. Like, you got your brother killed. Like, I'm disgusted with you. And Rock is like salty and saying like, oh, white bitches love my brother. Think he's basically like my brother's a joke and a punchline until they meet me, and and I'm not here to make white bitches laugh. I'm here to make the money. And Flossie just like, girl, I don't think that you or your brother's a joke. She's like, I actually think you're tragic. Like, Flossie is disturbed and disgusted by Rock. And she's basically like, I don't want to have nothing to do with you. And she leaves Rock on the corner. And I don't, I just really read the situation wrong. I thought Flossie was going to be real crooked and fugazi. And she is turning out to be kind of a realer bitch than Rock. Which, like, I didn't think Flossie was going to be a real bitch like this. I am very, very taken aback. And she is bad disturbed by Rock. She's like, especially I think she's seeing like how their family really get down and really is. And she's just like, yo, they don't got no honor like in their family, like how your relationship with your son, how y'all did Juke. You know what I mean? How your brother just died, you back here still just caring about trying to like make money, like you don't stand for nothing. Like you're mad, like money hungry, like you don't have no honor, no code. Like Flossie is disturbed by Rock, yo. I, and she has that right to. That's what Rock has shown of herself since she know her. So it is what it is. So next we back at the pawn shop with Breeze and Kanan, and Kanan basically is saying like, "Oh, how did you find out about the thing with my mom and her like basically having a price on her head?" And he's just like, I put two and two together, and like Kanan's basically like, "Well, what if it don't have to go down like that?" Like basically trying to see if like what if we give Rock the option of just like making her leave New York and never coming back instead of like putting her down. And Breeze is basically letting him know like that call is coming from up top from Stefano. Like it's not my call basically. And Stefano don't got no love for your mom, and he's pretty serious about this. So I don't know. Like this is just what's going to have to go down basically. So it's above me. That's basically what he says to Kanan. Like it's above me. So we'll see if Kanan is, able to, if he goes to Stefano and talk to them and try to see if he could work out his deal, because Breeze is just like, I thought you said you didn't care, and it is what it is. And Kanan's like, it is what it is, but it doesn't hurt to see if it doesn't have to go that way. And I'm just thinking, like, dude, why you ain't see about that with your Uncle Marvin? Like, it's like you stop and think because of your mother, but you ain't stop and think with Marvin. Like, that's just like crazy to me. Like, Kanan is Kanan and Rock are two sides of the same coin. Like, they are just like, I don't know how they're wired, yo. Like, I don't even understand what type of psychopath they are. And it's like they don't care about nobody more than each other, you know? And it's just crazy and disturbing. So we'll see if Kane is able to get this deal done. So now we see Rock in her lawyer's office talking to her lawyer, kind of talking about that deal with the feds, and she's basically saying, seeing if if Kanan can be a part of the deal, and the lawyer let her know like the FBI talked to Kanan, he don't want no parts of it. So basically, you have to be in on your own. And like, um, Rock is just like, oh, if I do this, I'm putting myself on the line, and basically like, oh, Kanan is right, and I'm not a snitch, and tell the FBI to kiss my ass, which I think is dumb as hell. Like she is so dumb. Like, but that's that old school no snitching shit. Like this is back in the day, so we have to remember that. And she is, you know, I think she don't want Kanan to look at her like that either. I think that bothers her. So she's just kind of doing what Kanan's doing because she, cares. She doesn't want to be viewed that way by her son. I guess still trying to show some honor, even though they're in a terrible place in their relationship. So that's the decision she made. And so, cut to we in the scene back at the pawn shop. One of the um, corner boys goes up to Kanan. He's like, "Oh, we have some young boys here. They want to put in where they want to join the team." So Kanan comes see what it is. It is like a little tiny young ass Ghost and Tommy, and they look so young. They look all of like 11. They look 10 or like they're like little boys, like literally little boys. And Kenan looking at them like, what's your name? He's like, oh, my name is Jamie and my name is Tommy. He's like, y'all live in Southside? And they like shaking their head like, yeah. And so Kanan thinking this, so he like, nah, like y'all too young. Like come back when y'all not eating Happy Meals. And so he leave and go in his car, and then you see Jamie and Tommy looking like Ghost and Tommy looking all disappointed and annoyed. And that is like so crazy. It's like mad disturbing because they're babies and want to do this. And I'm like, it's like that they first went to him that young, like they wanted to do that young. So disturbing. And so cut to a super sad scene of um, it looks like Juke is visiting her father. He's at um, the funeral parlor, I guess, getting ready for his funeral, and the funeral director kind of leaves her with him, and she's kind of just with him and gives him like his little lollipop, his signature lollipop that Marvin always used to be sucking on, which is super cute. I just feel so much for Juke. She's just had so much loss because of Kanan. And so I saw this other person on social media. I wish I knew their at who made such a good point of like majority of the people that she Juke loved, it was because in lost because of Kanan. That her ex like first real, you know, lesbian relationship, that white girl, she died because of those like I guess faulty drugs from Kanan that she took and she passed away. And then Uncle Lou and Marvin, they kind of like were the only ones who really, you know, really invested in you, like especially when it came to her musical talents and what she could do. Her father always didn't want her a part of the drug game and wanted her to go to school and wanted her to pursue music. And then Lou actually was mentoring her in music and had her in the studio and lessons and all that stuff. So it's just really sad how Juke is out here all by herself. And I wouldn't say she lost, but she just doesn't have that real support, you know, and someone who really genuinely cares about her and loves her. And I just, I just feel so bad for her. Um, and you know, we'll see how it goes, especially now that she knows that Kanan killed her father. So we gonna see how this goes, child. So you have Stefano and Kanan talking in Stefano's like I guess restaurant or whatever during the day. Kanan's basically just talking with Stefano to try to see if he, you know, if they can work out something where they don't have to put Rock down. Um, Something could be worked out and she could just leave New York. And Stefano's basically like, you know, your mom really disrespected me and insulted me, and I don't take those things lightly. And you know, I can't let basically have a reputation of letting stuff like that slide. And Kanan's just like, all she did was just go and work with somebody else, and like he didn't want to work with her anyway. He's just like, oh, it's bigger than that. Like basically letting like I can't just let it go. And Stephen was just like, I thought you said you wasn't really going to have a problem with this. And then Kanan's just, you know, being transparent of like, you know, I don't have a problem putting, when somebody got to go down, putting them down. And basically saying like, you know, a while back, like I almost put my mother down myself, you know, but it went another direction. So, you know, I've been there. Like I understand basically how my mother can be, could get you to that point. You know, she's my mother, so I understand. So Stefano's just like, you know, I hear you, and I would give anything to, you know, have 5 more minutes with my own mother. You know, she passed away, and you know, maybe something could be worked out. So we leave that scene, and we go straight to Kanan meeting up with Rock. I guess like downtown, they meeting up, and Kane is pulling up on her, like walking up saying like, oh, like we couldn't, you don't trust me to meet at your crib. And she was like, hell no, I need witnesses, because motherfucker, you killed my brothers and you tried to kill me. So like, no. And so we see Juke kind of watching them from afar and seeing them talking. So they're basically having this really intimate conversation. And basically, Kanan's just like, you know, Stefano wants to talk to you. He, you know, basically is saying open to talk about not putting you down, but you just need to talk to him to see what. Basically, he has a proposition for you. And so, and then Rock is just like, you know, basically, why did you care? Like, I thought you wanted me dead, and you know, all the things, and like, why didn't you take the deal with the feds? And like, I heard you didn't. And she was like, I didn't too. Like, I got shook and lost my head, but I remember who I was. And just I guess still trying to have a connection with Kanan, and she also like she takes accountability, for everything that's kind of going wrong, and their relationship, kind of like the fall of their relationship, everybody dying in their family. She takes accountability for everything, and like really just saying like, I love you the best I could, even if it may not have been enough for you. Like I thought that I love you to my capacity. You know what I mean? Like I am who I am, and I thought I loved you to my fullest capacity, and clearly that wasn't enough. And basically asking him like, do you still love me? He's just like, Kanan's like, you always going to care if your mom, cares about you. And like, even though you're the person who try to take away my pride, like I still want to make you proud of, basically saying he still love without saying it. And she like starts crying, and she, says she loves them and hugs them. They hug each other. And Kanan kind of taking it back, but he hugs her back, and he's basically, trying not to get overly emotional, saying like, go talk to Stefano and see what he want. And, basically, he throwing you a bone, so to save your life. So, you know, that's that's unfortunately how that conversation ends. And then we see back at the funeral parlor, Kanan and visiting Uncle Marvin there, and look like he's showing his respects, looking very like he feels very down, very guilty about what he did. He doesn't look like, just the fact that he's there is saying a lot, that he feels, that guilt there. And you know, and on how that whole thing went down, which I don't think it did not have to go down. Like, why couldn't you have went to Stefano about both Marvin and Rock? And I think he is basically showing regrets of what he had, since then. Um, but it is what it is. Mr. Marvin is gone, and so we cut to um, Rock goes and pays a visit to Stefano at his restaurant. Breeze is there with one of the other Stefano's henchmen, and Breeze goes to say hi to Rock, and she's just like, "Fuck you." And so they sitting in the back, and Stefano and Rock talk, and basically he says like, "Do this thing for me. We don't know what the thing is," and he was like, "And I'll let you leave and walk, and you do this, and you can leave the next day and don't come back. I don't care where you go." And she's basically just like, "Well, if I do this for you, why can't I stay?" And he's just like, "Nah, you can't stay. Um, but you get to live basically. And if basically you don't have a choice, if you say no, you won't make it to your car." And like she turns around, and he has her look at Breeze, and Breeze kind of like, put his hand on his gun or whatever, and not really giving her a choice. And he says like, "Oh, if you were ugly, you would be dead already." I'm just like, what? It's just the crazy disrespect to Rock, yo. They the with the constant help. It's just saying so much on like how much they try to humble women, especially a black woman. Like they know Rock is about her business, but it's like that's the part of why they can't stand her. Like I actually respect on why Flossie not fucking with her, but Bernardi and Stefano, they not fucking with her on some fucking chump shit. Like y'all not fucking with her because y'all can't fuck her. Y'all can't like outsmart her. Y'all can't control her. It's just like the hate is it's just so like the chauvinistic energy is just like disgusting. So basically that's where Rock is at. She has to go do this thing. She don't really have a choice. And it's a lifeline. So we shall see how it goes, child. Let's see this montage of Rock just making her final stops after, knowing she got to do this deed for Stefano. She goes and sees her, all her family at the cemetery. Her mom, her two brothers, Lou and Marvin. She goes and stops at Marvin's house to see if Juke is there, knocks on the door, calls for Juke. Juke does not answer. She hops back in her car. She stops and looks at the old house that, her and Kanan used to live in, real melancholy. And then she goes off. Next, we have, um, Kanan and Breeze. They're back at the pawn shop. Breeze is kind of checking in with Kanan, saying, like, what's the count on, for the work for today. And he was like, everything adds up, everything looks good. And he's just saying, like, one of the corners they work on, like 150, is they're about to run out. And Kanan's like, I already sent, re-up for that crew over there. So, business is good for them. And Breeze basically says, like, oh, I heard about, it looks like Stefano giving your mom a shot, and he's going to, let her walk if she does this last thing for him. And, basically showing respect for Kanan, saying, like, for setting that up. And he's saying, I respect that. If that was mine, I would have did the same, you know. And I think Breeze is saying, also saying, like, damn, like, he's not, I thought he was kind of ruthless. Like, I guess he's not as ruthless as I thought. But, Kanan doesn't say anything and kind of shrugs it off. Next, we had a hotel room with Bernardi. He's there in a robe watching TV. So there's a knock on the door, and comes Rock. So she comes in, and Bernardi's like, oh, basically welcomes in, like, oh, I guess I was hard to resist. So I guess he's thinking like she's there to sleep with him, but she turns around and she has a gun. And now we see, that is what Stefano asked of Rock to do. So and then Bernardi, he realizes right away, says, like, oh, fucking Stefano. And so Rock shoots, she has a silencer, so she shoots him, like, she pows him, like, 3 times, making sure he's down. And, we see that is what was the ask of Stefano. And Rock gets out of there immediately. So we see that's what it was. And yeah, Bernardi, I'm not surprised. He was very disrespectful to Stefano. It was very extra how he was coming at, and their weird coming at Stefano, and their weird little boy rivalry that they had from childhood is just really whack. And I hate that Rock had to be a pawn in between that nonsense. But that's her ticket to get out. So she did the deed. That's it. We are back at Rock's house. She's packing up. She did her deed. Now she's heading out, packing up for New York. Then we see Juke creeping in the house. Rock is taken aback. She didn't hear her come in. Juke pulls out a gun. Rock is like, what's going on? Why are you doing this? And she was like, if I explain to you, you still wouldn't get it. And Rock is just like, talk to me. Like, why, basically, why are you trying to kill me? And she's saying, because of Kanan. She's saying, oh, first she says, like, oh, do you think it's because I killed Marvin? She's like, I didn't do that. She was like, I know you didn't do it. And Juke was like, Kanan. And Rock is just looking confused. Like, she's just looking confused. And she looks over at her gun on the table across her bedroom. And so Rock tries to run to go get it, but Juke shoots her, I think, like, in the stomach. So that gets her down. And then Juke walks over her and, finishes the job, and, puts out Rock, unfortunately. So next we see Kanan at that diner. He's talking with Juke, and Juke is letting him know, like, I offed, your mother, and basically just saying, like, I got you back. This is my revenge. And he's just like, well, why didn't you just do it to me? Why didn't you pow me? And she's like, oh yeah, that was a part of the plan. But basically, like, I want you to be like me. I want you to stay alive and be alone and have nobody left on this earth who really, really care about you. Basically, like, that's the only way we're gonna be even. And um, and just the thought of that, she's that keeps her warm. Like, she can live with that. That will keep her going for a long, long while. And basically, Kanan's like, well, you alone too, and basically like you like trying to be like you ain't doing anything to me that is not being done to you. And she's like, I don't care. And so he threatens like, oh, what if I come after you? And she was like, do it. Like, I don't care, have at it. Like, she he basically is no holds bar. We're done. You ruined my life. I have no connection to you. We both in the same spot basically. And I don't have any care. And like, he looked a little taken aback, like, they like kind of like, oh, she's not intimidated by me. I'm like, dude, she was never intimidated by you, and she don't care. She's not shook at you. She doesn't care anymore. She has no care. She has um nothing to lose. Y'all both don't have nothing to lose. Like, that's also what you're not like. You think she's afraid to lose her life? She doesn't care anymore. So he like walks on. Before he walks off and leaves the table, she tells him like, oh, she never really loved you anyway, because right before I offed her, she was like, you know, um, begging like, oh, why don't you do that to Kanan instead of me? Do this to Kanan instead of me. And so he walks off, and I don't know. That could have happened. Like, I don't know, because I watched this episode twice. I watched it first with my family, and then again for this review. And my brother was like, "Oh, I think she really Rock really said that." I'm like, I don't know. I don't think she really said that, because we see Rock. She didn't even like beg for mercy or beg. We didn't see her beg. Like, Rock is a G, which is a trait you know that Juke has it about her too. Like, Rock, she just kind of accepted the fate and kind of realized in that moment, like, she kind of do have it coming and just accepted her fate. So I don't know. It could be not. Maybe Rock did say that. Maybe she didn't. I have no idea. But that is, the that's where the family kind of ended up at. And then we have this flashback at the end where we flash back to 1975, and we're in the hospital, and this is when we see a young Rock holding Kanan as a newborn baby. We see a young, super young Marvin and Lou, and we see little Juke and her, you know, and her stroller. She looks about like she's like 1 or 2 years old, and they're just, Rock is excited to have her baby, and a young Lou is just saying, oh, he looks just like you, and Marvin is just like, oh, he needs to stop. The baby needs to stop crying. If he gonna be out on the block with me, I need to know he tough. Just talking how they talk. And basically Marvin's like, oh, I'm starving. I'm gonna get something to eat. And then young little Lou's like, oh, we'll be right back, to his sister. And so Rock is talking to her, newborn baby Kanan, and just saying like, you could cry all you want, and I'm here for you. I'll pretend I'm gonna watch you always. It's just me and you. Just in love with her newborn baby. So it's just really crazy to see how, like, the start of his life and how it ended with him and his mom. And that's where we have the end of Raising Kanan. This was such a great standout series in the Power universe. To me, it's the best series of the Power universe thus far. Um, I I love this whole cast. It was just stellar performances. It's just crazy how they've never been nominated for any type of Emmy or Golden Globe. It's just really disrespectful and nuts, and they do that to a lot of black shows, unfortunately. Um, Even just in retrospect of everything, again, Juke is the most gangster person out of this whole family. She had the most loss. Um, and actually thinking about back what Flossie had said and told Marvin of like, put all your chips on your daughter. That's what the family should have did. Cause Kanan ain't what I'm seeing from the end of all of this. Kanan is not really about that life, because Juke is the one who killed Snaps and Pop. That should have Kanan should have did that. If you knew that he killed your best friend and they going around trying to sabotage your mother and your whole family, you should have put her down. Why didn't you put her down? So Juke is the only one who really handled business for the family, with the absence of her uncle, her father, and her uncle. Juke is the one who found out who was stayed on point and found out who, put down famous. You know what I mean? Like she is, and just like Kanan is not really about that life. He was just going off the hate of his mother. You know what I mean? Like he really don't. That's what's really was driving him, was trying to outdo his mother. It wasn't like Juke is a different type of thing. She's doing it of just emptiness and not having anyone. And Kanan is that person who took every person who really genuinely loved her out of her life. And just like how patriarchy is set up, they put all their chips in thinking Kanan supposed to be the one, when the one who was really about it was Juke. And now we get like why, when we see these characters in power and like why the way they are, why they're the energy they are, and we thinking all this time Kanan is the monster. No, Juke is the monster. Juke is the monster. And so you seeing like not only Kanan's origin story but also Juke, and the differences between their characters. So it's just, again, it so much is said in this episode, especially about patriarchy, especially within families. How girls and boys are reared in families, the true nature of men and women, um, and just like how you know Juke's role, and who she truly is, her true essence. And Juke really had possessed all of the best traits of all her family members, of her, of Rock, of really being about that life, being a natural leader, um having like that goal about her of, and not begging for anything, being a natural strategist, knowing how to lay low, knowing how to be a leader but also lay low. Like having that duality about her, natural leader, um knowing how to lay low, knowing how to be aggressive at the same time, um being about that life like her uncles, getting stuff done, not being afraid, um naturally a good shooter. It's just all this time, and we all these seasons, and it's actually Juke is the one. She is the most gangster out of that whole family, to go through all that loss. And we see how her energy transmuted every season. It is unfortunate seeing like the light of her slowly go away, and that how we see that light transmute into this, this dark feminine energy. But definitely empathize with it. Definitely have that understanding of it. And seeing all the layers behind it. Again, the writing team for Raising Kanan is top tier, stellar, top tier acting, with all of the actors who play Juke, Rock, Marvin. Like those are the top tier characters and actors of this series. And just such a pleasure reviewing this. Again, let me know your thoughts. Do you like the ending? Do you not like the ending? I still am about the ending. Um, but let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Would love to hear it. And again, I am Yavo. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my content, like and subscribe. I'm going to definitely be doing more different streaming series, also reality series, and just different movies that I love. Maybe even review some plays, different Broadway shows I may see. So definitely be on the lookout. And thank you again for watching. Bye.